Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get More Clients. I'm your host, Lynn. Business owners and entrepreneurs hire me to ignite winning sales because most are chasing down clients, stuck in a chaotic sales cycle, lacking client retention, conversions, and profits. The mission of this show is to educate, inspire, and motivate women around the world to build a robust sales strategy to get more clients. Because most can't get more clients and haven't a clue why. You will learn to transform thinking to the client's perspective, end sales chaos with a robust strategic plan, and to harvest the hidden profits. The craziest thing about speed dating is people who show up and don't know why they came or what they're even looking for. It's nearly impossible to boss your way through the evening when you keep wondering what the heck you're doing. What if you had a clear picture in your head about your life goals, dreams, and aspirations? What really mattered? What the important characteristics were of the people who you wanted to join on this journey? Your shared values. Now you have the confidence and assurance to seek that special someone. You can visualize the various ways you can meet. You have a path to follow, and you're forever dumped speed dating. What if you knew exactly where you were headed? Last week, we explored client motivations and emotional appeal to deeply pique your client's interest and secure their attention. Today, we're going to be exploring how to build out your ideal client avatar. So you're going to learn how to dump that speed dating. Understanding your ideal client avatar enables you to gain a clear picture of what you should allocate and where you want to focus and coordinate your sales resources. By the end of today's show, you will know how to identify and define your ideal client avatars, identify the why of your ideal client avatar, their pain points, their emotions and motivations. Attract and connect to your ideal client by speaking to their why and those motivations and emotions so that you can connect and convert more easily. Let's get started on how to make that initial connectivity and spark. I call it the spark. So during the Q&A on the previous episode, one of the guests asked me why I begin with client thinking versus the ideal client avatar. And, to be honest, this is that chicken and egg conundrum. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? So I start with client thinking because it is truly the bedrock for everything else. Throughout your sales strategy, whatever you're doing or working on, you need to put it back into the perspective of your client why. So as an example, when you're creating a new lead magnet, you need to ask, why does this matter to the client or your prospect? Why is this going to help them or serve them? In what way does it benefit them? How is it going to make a difference so they can achieve and move forward with that goal, that dream, that aspiration? So in this way, you can determine if it's of value to them. So even though you might think you've got this really cool idea for a lead magnet, the question is if your client perceives it of value. Because if you don't go there and you haven't associated the value of your client perception, then all that time and energy into this lead magnet is just going to fall flat. Okay. Client thinking is your most fundamental and foundational through line in your sales strategy and the client journey. In addition, the client why changes throughout their journey or working with you. Okay. It builds, it pivots, and it evolves. And this is why I start with client thinking. So now, today, let's get into your ideal client avatar. I always rub my hands together, so I'm excited. Now, there are a couple things that you need to do for any client and developing out your client avatar. We need to look at them in an overall picture, and that goes back to last week's episode on what's that market segment. And we covered that quite thoroughly, but I still want to give you a very quick recap to put this in context. So I'm going to use that health coach example. So they have clients who are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or overweight. Now, all three of these segments share the commonality that they're overweight and that they're looking for assistance. However, our health coach would communicate with each of those three market segments differently. All right. The messaging would be unique because for someone who's overweight, but not pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, that type of messaging around diabetes or diabetic issues is not going to resonate with them because that's not where they're at. Okay. So the message wouldn't be perceived as being for them, that you're not talking to them. So that's why in those three cases, you're going to build out those three unique market segments and three unique client avatars. Now, there is more synergy between pre-diabetic and type 2 diabetic and for that client avatar. But these unique market segments, the bottom line is they help you identify the language to speak directly to that audience. And by creating an ideal client avatar or persona, you can clearly picture the person that you're speaking to. It's the fastest way to create that connectivity to lead to new business because you focus your attention and communication strategically. All right, so you're going like, yeah, but that doesn't really fit me. So what about a completely different type of solution, such as a cryptocurrency payment processing system? And I want everybody to say that fast 6 times, cryptocurrency payment processing system. So in this case, yes, you could sell this to most organizations, but the best way for your business to grow is to focus your attention on a specific vertical or market segment. Some people call that niching down. But the key is that who are you speaking to and how does everything align so that audience knows that you're talking to them and what makes the most sense. So when you're leveraging your experience of serving this vertical or your knowledge of that market segment, that's an example of how you're going to craft your ideal client avatar. And in this case, you're probably going to be looking at the people who are innovators and early adopters. And so that is going to be a key characteristic that you can speak to in your communication and outreach. And those people who are those innovators and the early adopters, they're going to go, hey, yeah, you're talking to me, right? I always want to do that. Robert De Niro, you talking to me? So the purpose of determining your market segments is to identify your best strategic path, right? And that's the best sales strategy. And it must include who you want to be working with and how can you make an impact. And then identifying exactly who your ideal client avatar is to attract and connect. Now, there are a lot of different characteristics of the people you may want to work with. So I want you to take a step back and ask yourself about shared values, lifestyles, and activities that are important to you. Ways that you can genuinely connect with your prospects and your future clients. I need you to pay close attention to this next exercise. All right. There are 5 big questions that are so core to who you are and who you serve that each prospect you meet or connect with has to answer heck yes to these 5 core questions. If they're not a heck yes, then they're not going to be a good fit for you. All right. So when that occurs, that prospect will go into a relationship channel, not your sales channel. Okay. You still want to value that relationship, and nurture them along because their situation could change and they may know someone who is that ideal client avatar for you. All right. So here's the question. What are your 5 questions? What are your 5 questions? And what are those that your prospect must say heck yes to in order for you to invest your time to serve them? And these 5 questions can be about their business, culture, or personal characteristics. And often it's some kind of combination of above. So I'm going to give you an example for a business or organization that helps retain, retain and attract talent. So 1, what is the specific industry, such as specializing in hospitals? So if that's an area of expertise that you have experience in that industry, then that's going to be where that's the first thing. Heck yes, they're in that industry. So you know that you talk their language already and you have a whole bunch of common ground. It could be a geographic area that you can serve well. So this could be like a tri-state area, especially if you're doing on-site in this type of B2B scenario. Number 3, you could be looking for clients that have a low retention rate and poor online workplace reviews. So those are going to places like Glassdoor and looking for those types of statistics. And because these are going to be a real pain point. Low retention rates cost companies a lot of money. They cost hospitals a ton. The cost to retain or to hire and train a nurse, as an example, is anywhere from like $30,000 to $65,000. I mean, that's just the cost to recruit, hire, and train, right, on the job for your system. So we're talking big money here. And you need to know that they need help turning things around. All right. So number 4 fingers, is you are looking for a top-down executive commitment to improving the work environment and culture within their organization. You know that you would then have the support you need to make an impact. I mean, if they don't really care about their culture or the working environment, no matter what you do for them, it's not going to stick, right? So you need a heck yes that they're committed, that top-down executives are committed to improving their environment and culture so that they can attract and retain their team members. All right, number 5. In this example, the primary client decision maker and contact has high personal and professional integrity and shared values. All right. Now, that's just an example. It's one example of 5 heck yes questions. And what's beautiful about identifying these is that you can use them to screen your prospects. All right. And you can save yourself time and energy and heartache when you do this. A really easy way to do that is when you set up the Calendly. If you're using whatever you're using for scheduling, I happen to use Calendly, but you can ask specific questions that they need to answer, that it doesn't take them a lot of time, but then you can get a sort of a feel, are they going to be able to answer heck yes to these things? All right. And you think that through. All of this is helping you paint that clear picture of who you're speaking to. And this results in a logical position for you to attract, connect, and improve your sales cycle speed. So let's go through that checklist for this exercise. What's that market segment? What are your 5 heck yes questions? All right. And if you have a clear picture of that heck yes, now you can create that clear picture of your ideal client avatar. And you're ready to craft that persona of that ideal client avatar. So you're going to visualize who they are. I want you to find a picture and start describing them. Okay. What's their why? You're going to give them a name. Okay. You're going to name it. It's going to be Sally or Margie, or it's going to be Irina, whatever that name is. Okay. You're going to name them. And now you're going to start really filling in what's their goals and aspirations. What are their emotions and their motivations? Why does it matter to them that they achieve this? Okay. You're going to go through that whole client thinking exercise for this ideal avatar. All right. Everything we've already covered, you're going to use that to flesh them out. So you're going to also look at that psychographic profile, their behaviors, their values, lifestyles, and activities. Now, you also need to include who are the influencers of your ideal client avatar in the sales process. So while they may not be decision partners, they can be influencers. The people that are on their team, that are their peers, that are, it could be a spouse, it could be a partner, it could be a family member. These influencers are going to be their sounding boards. So when they're thinking about your product or service, they're going to be that inner circle, that group that they reach out to help them make the decision about moving forward with your product or service. Then, of course, there are decision partners and specific stakeholders. So in a B2B world, this is especially important to know who those stakeholders are. And of course, the influencers, because normally you're not selling to one person, you're selling more to the room, even though there is a primary decision maker or decision partners. And there's a number of ways you need to let your mind flow in and around these people. And this information needs to be added to your ideal client avatar, because these literally come up as areas of either objections when you're having a conversation with them, questions that they're going to have, and it's also those pain points that you need to address. So all of this goes into that picture. And as you're thinking through that ideal client avatar, that's another area that I want you to start thinking about. What are those big pain points? Who are those influencers, the stakeholders, their decision partners, right? What are those common objections that they're going to have for you? What are the common questions that they're going to have for you about your product or service? Okay. So another really important component of attracting and connecting with your ideal client avatar is market experience. So I want to go into this a little bit more, because this is sort of like, whoa, wait a minute, segue, what am I talking about? So in other words, what's the experience of your ideal client avatar is going to have with your product or service? Is this something that they're familiar with? Is it completely new? Is it fresh? Is it a different twist on something that's out there? So I want you to think about this. So in the case of the cryptocurrency payment processing system, like I said, it's a mouthful. Many people may have some kind of idea of that, but it's not an area that they may be experts in or have much information on, right? And so in this case, you're going to have to do a bunch more education. So if people have to be completely educated about your product or service that you deliver, then you're going to need to approach your ideal client avatar and the materials that you provide differently than a market that's familiar with what you do. So in the case of our health coach, when they're looking through what they're doing, most people who are overweight, are pre-diabetic, or have type 2 diabetes, they're going to be aware of this idea of getting healthy eating. I can't even talk. Healthy meal plans, healthy eating, getting more movement, and the benefits of how that's going to help them. So they've got some ideas. They've probably heard it from their doctors, maybe from their pharmacists, from their family or friends. So they may have been dabbling in this and doing their own DIY, to get information on it. So they're really quite familiar with that market and that segment, right? That experience, right? That market experience. So how you're going to approach that is going to be from a different perspective than the cryptocurrency payment processing system, where you're going to have to do a whole bunch of education around that to move your clients, those innovators and early adopters, into your product or service. So As we go on every episode, we've covered so much. And knowing who your ideal client avatar is enables you to communicate effectively, to attract, connect, and cultivate the relationship. And that key piece that I want to go back to, because that was the exercise at the beginning, were the 5 top questions that they need to answer heck yes to. This has to be a part of that ideal client avatar, because you're going to be able to build your outreach, your communication, your outreach, and your follow-up, and your presentations, if they're workshops, if you're on podcasts, whatever they happen to be, you're going to be building that around those 5 heck yeses that you need to have, so that those leads that come in, that they're a great fit for you, that they're good leads, because then you're going to be able to convert them, attract, connect, and convert them much easier, guiding them to the sale to get more clients. So I want to go back one more time. Sometimes you need that redundancy about those 5 questions, because I gave you an example for a B2B. Let's flip the switch, and I'm going to give you an example that's a totally different example. And I'm going to come up with something that's a little fresh. So you've lost a pet. Nobody understands what you've gone through. Nobody at work. They were sympathetic, and your family and friends for the first few days, maybe the first week, but you're still struggling with that. Okay, so this is who you are as a client avatar. So what are your top 5 questions that a coach who works with people who are coping with pet grief? Okay, it's grief like any other, right? So there are all kinds of coaches who work with different forms of grief, but this is really quite unique, right? Because those people, the pain that they're in is that most people don't get it after the first week or 2 weeks, right? They don't understand that they're still in this space, and they don't have the type of sympathy and support, empathy that they need to process and to move forward, so they can really truly celebrate this wonderful life that they had together, and to be able to then move through the grief process, so that at some point they're ready to bring that new special person to them, their new special pet, into their life. So when you're looking at those 5 heck yeses in this type of scenario, and you're a grief coach that works specifically with people who either have aging pets, who have pets with chronic illnesses, pets that are near the end of their life, or pets who've had whether it's an expected or a sudden death, that you're working with those people to cope with that. And so, first of all, they've got to be pet people in the sense that that pet is part of their family. It's like their person. All right. So that's going to be that heck yes. Right. That how important this pet is to them. All right. They need to be in that scenario that I just covered, that they've got an aging pet. They have a pet who may have chronic medical conditions. They have a pet who's near the end of their life, or who's recently died. So that's another heck yes, because those are the people that are going to connect. You're going to be able to attract and connect with your messaging, right? And so then beyond that, they need to have another heck yes, is they don't feel that they have the support system that they need, that their family, their friends, their coworkers don't get it. They were nice and good about it and supportive in the first couple of weeks, but they just don't get it anymore. Okay. And they need to look outside for that support to help them work through the grief process. Another thing about these people could be that they do want to work through that grief process. They want to move forward, like so they can bring a new pet, that new pet person into their life. Right. And so as you've worked through those 5, and then the 5th one is that they have an open mindset about how they're going to work through the grief process. They want to try something new. They're really looking and seeking for that kind of emotional guidance. And so when you work through that, and that's that example for a completely different take on those top 5 questions. So now all of a sudden, I've created this picture of who this client avatar is for you while I was doing that. And what's beautiful about this is that you now have those top 5 questions and how you can structure those in both when people are booking up an appointment with you, how you are structuring that and the types of lead magnets that you're going to create, the type of materials and the messaging that you're going to put out there on as for communication on your website and your social media, when you're guesting on podcasts or shows on Win-Win Women Network, right? So all of this is going to fit and be tidy and put together. That's why really having that clear idea of your client why feeds into your client avatar. So, and then you're going to start going through that exercise again. Go ahead and go back and rewatch that episode on thinking like the client. Go through that exercise. Now that you've really pictured your client, your ideal client avatar. I mean, this is that journey. Now go back and look at this. Go back and look at their emotions. Look at where they're at. Look at their motivations, that how they want to move forward in their life. This is what matters, right? For them, so they can. All right. So let's go back through that. They have, what do they want, need, or lack? They need that support in this case. They're really looking for that support to deal with the situation. All right. And why does it matter to them? Because nobody else gets it. And they're tired of trying to just find stuff DIY on Google because it's not helping. All right. And it matters to them so that they can emotionally cope with the situation and process it. So they can move through this journey that they're on with their pet in a more joyful manner, celebrating, dealing with their grief, really looking at it, letting it wash over them, and working through that so that they can get to the other side of celebrating that incredible life that they were able to share together. Okay, so there was our client thinking in a nutshell. And I'm going to go back. We covered off a lot today, right? And knowing your client avatar and going through your client thinking, those emotions and motivations, all of this is helping you to attract, connect, and cultivate your ideal clients so that you can speed up your sales cycle and work with the type of people that you can create real impact for. So on the next episode, we're going to go deeper into pain points. I'm going to help you with the visualization of that because a picture speaks 1,000 words. So we're going to work through that. We are also going to dive into where these ideal client avatars, where they're going to be hanging out and how can you make those connections with them. So we're going to work through all of that on the next episode, and we're going to connect the dots from the client thinking to your emotions, to motivations, to the client avatar, the pain points, where they hang out, so that you can create that incredible initial spark to begin the client journey with you. So they will come to you, they're going to be attracted to you, they're going to connect with you, and you can start them on their way. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's about getting more clients so that you can help and serve them along their journey, whether it's in their business, whether it's helping their team members in their organization, whether it's helping them personally, their families, or their community. You're creating that incredible impact. Thank you so much for tuning in. My purpose is to get you more clients. I'm Lynn Whitbeck, and I'm thrilled and grateful you joined me. If you have a question or would like to suggest topics for discussion, you can email me at jointheconversation@petitetoqueen.com. And of course, you can connect with me on our website and stay current on all of our insightful advice, breakthrough advantages, and never miss a single episode by signing up for our weekly wisdoms newsletter at petitetoqueen.com. And remember, next week, we're going to be discussing your ideal client avatar pain points. We're going to work on visualization. Then we're going to connect the dots as to where they hang out and how you can create the optimal spark to begin their client journey with you. I will see you next week on Get More Clients.